Oh, your girl was wrong, kind of. But let's get into it. Let's get into it. We start off right where we left before with our incredibly dry surroundings for what was probably one of the darker moments in Precure. At least it tries to explain why the girls have, like, the most lukewarm reaction to what just happened. They're like, huh? They seem more shell-shocked than they do have any clue what happened. It's not like they don't know about the heart key lock and the price and everything, but Purirun seemed to remarkably pick up on what happened much faster than the rest of them did. And I gotta give it to Purirun's voice actress. She gave a very good performance this episode. The crying, the emotions, the tears, that was very well done. That was very well done. But now we get to finally dive into an explanation. And I think this is the one part of the episode that I think is messy, to say the least. I think this whole time I've talked about how much I thought that this plotline in general has been messy. And this is where they, like, you know, attempt to clean up the mess so that we can enjoy the rest of it. And try to explain what has happened. Which we're reminding everybody, by the way, the heart key lock is the reason why things are going awry here. It's the lock's fault, our favorite villain. And Medadon is now trapped inside the lock because she has paid her price. I also thought it was so weird for a minute. I was like, why is this just so uncanny? And then I realized it's because we never see her walk, because they always float. So, like, actually seeing her, like, Teletubby run for a second really threw me for a loop, but I was like, I mean, I guess it makes no sense. You're not flying and you're void of unhappiness. That makes sense. If nothing else really does. And we get this, like, sad moment of her just being upset. Again, I don't know why the lighting is just throwing me off this episode, but, like, give her a spooky shadow or something over her. Like, it's too bright. It's too bright in this particular scene for me. The lighting for the first half of the episode is just... I think I'm upset with the lighting right now because it's been good in the past couple seasons. Like, even a season as light and jovial as Tropical Rouge had really good lighting whenever things needed to be dramatic. Kira Papaya's debut was really good. Kira Flamingo's last character episode had phenomenal lighting as well, on top of, like, the first episode and the last episode also being really strong in these departments. Also, Wonderful was just really good with its mood lighting whenever they were trying to do something more serious, especially with the heavy hitter episodes. But even around this period of time, like, I don't think this is one for one when the Tanabata episode aired, but that was really good. And so just, the lighting is throwing me off for this. It's one of those things where it's like, this is the art equivalent of, like, the silence is so loud. It's just too noticeable for me. But that nitpick aside, the lore. We have Purirun reaffirm what we, the audience, have been reminded like 18 times, which is nobody knows what her particular wish was. Except for one particular character that makes me kind of annoyed. And that's Miss Picarine. Now, this is where I don't like the writing. Like, it's a smaller nitpick thing, but it's like, the way I felt about the writing for the entirety of this Medadon, like, lock plotline, where it feels like they have decided the beginning of this plotline and the end, but then they had to figure out how the heck to bridge that together. The bridging of this storyline has been so messy. Because Picarine reminds us that she's like, I knew what her wish was the whole time, and I have not told you guys what the wish is because the writers want me to say it now and not earlier, so we can have suspense and plot twist. Which, logically speaking, is the stupidest thing that Picarine could possibly do, because these people are all individuals who are trying to save the world as your warriors on their behalf. And maybe communicating all of the different anxieties and the way things work and explaining how everything goes down would have been something that would have been a beneficial thing to do earlier. Hiding Medadon's origins from everybody benefited no one. No one in series, except for the writers outside the series who were like, it's gonna be a great plot twist. And that's why I hate this writing. That's why I hate this writing. If the only reason why you did this is because the writers are like, it'd make a cool plot twist, and that there's not a decent in-series reason for why Picarine didn't explain this sooner, makes me so mad. It's just bad. It's just messy. But she tries to clarify things by also making it 1,000 times more complex and unhelpful. She goes on to explain that Medadon is not like other girls. She is not a character born of the light, Because you know how she was sitting in the corner emo and saying that she is a character of the darkness? Well, she meant that in a very literal sense, in fact. Very, very literal sense. Because perhaps she is not like the other fairies and a character of the light. Though speaking of my good friends, the other fairies, I do like all of them sitting here. I like, first of all, that we get to see Cuddy and Zakady again in fairy form. We also get a hint that we'll see them in human form next episode for those of you who are scrambling for them to have human forms. We do see them again. We remind them that they exist. But also, we have Tanaka come in here with a very, very smart observation where he's like, okay, but like, they used the lock and key like a bajillion years ago, and the consequences are now happening. Why? Why consequence not happen 10 episodes ago? Why it happened now? Explain? Wanna explain that? And of course, don't worry, we've got a messy explanation. We've got Medadon's backstory. We explain that she is a child born of the darkness, because whenever, like, they keep bringing up this vague prophetic statement of, like, whenever there's a sign of, like, light and darkness, a child of darkness will be born. Which, I'm like, why aren't we unpacking that? Are we also just not going to explain what that means because we're going to save it for, like, the last episode? Like, Picurine still being vague as hell? Which is probably because she's got some kind of hand in the problems we're facing, but that's neither here nor there. Nonetheless, Medadon is revealed to have been born from a dark star, which now makes a little bit more sense on why everybody kept comparing Medadon to Cure Majesty. I was like, I see a lot of Twitter saying that, but I don't quite know the context. I do now know the context. We have our dark star born character, who also is still born from the ribbon from the looks of it, who looks to be born from, technically speaking, the ribbon. And then we have the explanation that she was born with the lock and key, which is very interesting, because I was like, she's been running around with this lock and key, and Picurine is like, no, don't you use that lock and key. It's a bad time, don't do that. But she was born with it. She had it the whole time, this legendary item that's found in textbooks. Does the lock and key of some kind always show up with our dark-born individuals? Did perhaps Darkine and Picurine, like, use their own version of the lock and key? There's a lot of questions that came here that we did not have an explanation for, and I'm very suspicious of Miss Light over here. But we just drive home that Medadon's born of darkness and she's not like other girls. I guess this at least solves one problem, where the series had that whole dilemma of being like, well, are technically speaking Puridun and Medadon related? No, in fact, we have cleared that they are the least related fairies in the whole garden. Medadon was born from a dark star, while Puridun was born from a tree, unless they're gonna plot twist that later, but as it stands right now, they are the least related fairies, so they super cleared that up for us. But Medadon knew she was part of the dark, and didn't belong with the other fairies. Until she met Puridun, who changed everything. But what was the wish all along? If it were not Medadon getting more friends, like I had originally said it was going to be and I was wrong-ish. Her wish was a future with Puridun, to which she lost to the lock. But that wish was kind of vague. She didn't know what her future looked like with Puridun. She hadn't quite figured that out, so she didn't have to pay the price. But then she figured out what it was. It was being friends with Puridun and all the girls, because that's what Puridun did, and that's the future if she stayed with Puridun. And now she had to pay the price for having an idea of what that future looked like. So, like, as vague as the explanation has been, they're also like, her wish was too vague, and then it got less vague, and then it became what I did predict it to be. So I was wrong-ish. And that's why she's sealed today. Lore ended. Because we've got other lore to pay attention to. After all that debacle with Picurine, we go to Chokirine, who, once again, is doing that whole, like, I'm lonely nonsense, but has someone appear. We got Jogi. I don't remember if his name was stated before. He was just kind of around, but shout out, we have Jogi over here, close cousin to a bear, who's like, hey, Darkine actually likes me better, and I'm gonna be a good employee, and I'm gonna be sassy. And what we can take away from this episode in regards to these two characters, because I think some people have been musing that Chokirine was going to be an irredeemable character, which I don't really feel like was going to be a thing, but I think even more of a reason why I doubt she will be an irredeemable character is because of the way these two characters function thus far in the series. Like, this guy, Jogi, he might be irredeemable. Potentially, depends on how they unfold the rest of the story. But we have gotten confirmation this episode that we have gotten a little bit more information to build on what we know already in regards to our villains, which is we saw that our first two villains were fairies that were corrupted. So it's very likely that Choki Irine is also a corrupted fairy, but she uses the light within people to turn them into monsters. Whereas Jogi, from what we had seen before, and we see again this episode, he pulls the darkness from people. So there's now this concept, since we've been officially confirmed that there are dark fairies and there are light fairies, that there's a chance that Jogi is a dark fairy, whereas Chukine is a light fairy. And light fairies probably have a higher chance of getting redeemed than the dark ones do, at least in terms of the ones that are, like, actually happy to be evil, seem a little less redeemable. But also tells us more again about Chukine, that she's a character, she's likely a light fairy who has some sad TM backstory and was corrupted into the darkness and will be relevant. I do find it interesting that the series is hanging on. She has not had a redemption arc yet. And it will be interesting to see if her redemption arc is in the near future, or if they really hold on to her until the end of the series and make some other vague statement. But I think that's, like, this is the part of the lore that I find the most interesting. I do like the idea that there are dark fairies and light fairies, and that's kind of shaped the way our villains exist. I think that's been clever. I think they've been a little bit more ironed out with that. The Locke stuff, I think, is just written kind of... In the meantime, coming to the revelation of why Medadon is inside the egg. We have to figure out what we're going to do about it, and mostly how we're going to save her. And also really thanks to Nana for pointing out what needed to be said, because where I think Picorine was just written in here to explain things that the girls probably couldn't have deduced on their own and just filled holes in the story that just created more holes, I do like that Nana has been utilized in this episode to be someone who is more observant. She quickly realized that Medadon did want friends, and that the wish did morph into this wish of wanting friendship. And that's why she's been imprisoned. And so now we don't have to play this game of everybody being like, Medadon hates us. No, we all are now very aware that she wanted to be friends. And that now we have to find a way to reach her from beyond our evil egg. And then just to, again, reaffirm that there's the whole, like, pulling from darkness rather than pulling from love. We bring back these two lovebirds who are doing the whole Locke thing, but they have a little conflict where the guy's like, I want to do the Locke thing again to reaffirm our love forever and ever. And the girl's like, so you think we have to do it more than once? You don't trust our love? It's a silly bit that they do. I wish they actually kind of resolved it, because I think that was a pretty valid conflict between these two, but then they're just like, we love each other at the end of the episode, and I was like, okay, whatever. But yes, them having this, like, problem in the relationship allows them to have the darkness pulled from them rather than what was before, which was the love. Again, they drive that home in a way that I think is pleasing. I think them trying to explain how the light and darkness works and using the same couple twice, I think, was a smart move. And then on top of Nana continuing to be an MVP for this episode, she sat there and she said, I read a book. No one else in the cast really does that, but she read the book and understands more of why specifically Medadon was attached to it. Because I was kind of curious what this book even was before. Like, it felt like it was literally a book from Kiriki Land, but no, it's really just a book about, like, 5 friends that get separated but come together with the power of a friendship ribbon. And then, of course, they very slyly drew our 5 girls here, which I also like that they used the human forms for Medadon and Puridun. I thought that was kind of cute. Would love to see those human forms more, just saying that. And the inspiration from this book, believing that there's, like, this ribbon of bonds that will transcend, like, distance and time and your dimensions. Utsa resolves that they will reach Medadon and start singing again. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like we could have made this a little less cringy, but it got less cringy when Puridun got into it. Again, it's such a hit and miss in shows when, like, a character randomly starts singing, and it's been better in this series than some other ones that I've seen. This was kind of cringy. Got the ball rolling on our saving the day arc, at which Medadon actually is able to briefly see the light from this. And she also magically gets a Kiriki light in there with her. She's like, now I got this with me. Like, don't worry, kids. No matter what, we will get you our Precure products, even if you're in a realm of darkness. But of course, Jogi cuts in and is like, I'm here to be a villain. Oh, ho, ho, look at me. I'm evil. There he is. Evil. And then Medadon, it's like, where did my concert go? That was kind of a bop. Like, I mean, again, transcended dimensions to celebrate the vibes. And then we get Darkine. Now, this is where, like, the episode starts to pick up for me. I really like that it drives home what was kind of implied when they explained that Medadon's a child of darkness, where Darkine starts dropping some big bombs here, which I don't know if all of this is just necessarily translation kind of stuff, or if it's meant to be taken literally. But she's like, you and I are one and the same. We were born together. And I was like, okay, were you born together? Were you born at the same time, or did you just mean that, like, both of you have dark starred and you're the next dark star, but we're from the same dark star? Like, what did you mean by together? What do you mean by that? But she's like, hey girl, I came to pick you up. You get a free pass into my posse. You get to work for me. Low pay. Badass human form. Come join the darkness. Like, about to be the new employee of the month. Move over, Jogi. You're getting replaced after your second episode. To which Medadon's like, nah. Now, Darkine disappears in this segment, and then we have Medadon's quote-unquote darkness show up, which is interesting, because you're like, is that Darkine just being manipulative, or is this just, like, genuinely the darkness inside Medadon talking? I think it's more the latter, just because it's so curated to Medadon, but pretty epic, like, form of antagonism here, because, like, I did not necessarily expect Darkine to personally try to get Medadon on Team Evil, but I'm really vibing with it, because, like, this Egg of Darkness felt like it was a third-party evil, but now it's back to being just part Team Darkine, which is interesting. We have evil Medadon show up and spit some mad truths here, and does what I need it to do. This scene does exactly what I've needed other seasons to do in regards to how to handle characters like this. First of all, we've had really early seasons with, like, Milky Rose-esque characters who are mean. But, like, people are like, it's fine, because she's a diva character. And you have characters push back against her, but it kind of escalates into just a bigger fight. We've had seasons with a Laura character who, again, is sassy and selfish, but no one ever puts her in her place, and then she just occasionally kind of figures out that she sucks and then just course corrects. This is where I really want to see a character have their insecurities as an antagonist, because again, I don't really want, like, given the way the characters are written, I'm not expecting somebody like an Uta or a Nana to sit there and tell Medadon that she's being a jerk. I do like that we had a little bit of somebody like Kokoro call her out on her BS. Appreciate that. But at the end of the day, I think what makes the most impact is how they handled it. Having Medadon herself tell her the part of her that the fandom has hated the most, which is her jealousy spiraling out of control, where she has treated everybody like crap because she's jealous. And Medadon saying, I don't want to behave that way anymore. For Medadon to look in the mirror and be like, my actions were incorrect. But, like, in a serious way, because again, other seasons didn't do it. Like, with Laura, she always just very comedically recognized that her actions were maybe not the nicest, and then she would just, like, in a very tsundere way, pretend to solve the problem, and everybody would be like, we know what you meant, Laura. And I was like, I would like her to say it out loud, though. I'd like her to say out loud that she was being a little brat. I love that Medadon is very acknowledging of where she was wrong, and for her to even go as far as make the next statement, which is that she hasn't been communicating. Her biggest flaw is that she's had all these feelings, and she's not articulated them properly to the rest of the crew, which, again, this is a personal thing. I prefer. Again, with Laura, they did the whole tsundere nonsense where she would just, like, act away, but everybody would just have to magically know that she meant it some other way, and that was her equivalent of apologizing. I hate that on a personal level, if I'm being completely honest. I like that Medadon's like, I don't communicate, and I do want to be honest about my feelings. And I'm like, good for you, Queen. This is the level of self-reflection we needed. Now, did I really want to have you wait 10 episodes to figure that out? No. I did not. I can tell you right now, I did not like that. However, we got there in the end, and now you'll be so much more enjoyable for the rest of it. And as long as I don't rewatch the series, that will be for the best. And this truth bomb annihilates evil Medadon, as it should, basking in the light, fully rejecting the darkness. Now, I will say this real quick because I've had a couple of people DM me, because I have not posted my review for this because I've been out of town, who had really, really insightful things to say about this particular moment. And I'm going to let them say their piece in the comment section because I don't want to sit here and, like, basically steal what they said. And I think for the next video, if I remember, I will try to pull some comments because there are so many good takes that I saw about how this was handled and how Medadon handled like fighting her own darkness, that I do want to feature what people had to say. So if you've got like a take on this, or you had like a reaction as well, I will happily add you to the list, and I will make sure I'll write it down to include that for next episode. And Medadon was not lying when she said she wanted to finally be a truther and tell the truth. Because she immediately is like, I want to connect with everybody, and then like literally uses a magical light ribbon to touch the hearts of all the team members. And I was like, there we go. That's what I want to see. Happy. This is exactly what I want. This is what I've been waiting for. Like, what? This is the satisfaction I wanted for 10 episodes. Look how, like, happy she is to hug the crew. And, like, specifically, you see that she is hugging, in this shot, Kyun and Idol. Love that. Love it. So happy about it. And then we get our new song. Now, this reminds me, because I always forget to talk about this in episodes, because, I don't have the music on me. The music in this episode was phenomenal. The dramatic music was really good. The emotional music leading up to here was really good. And then the new song is really good. A lot of other people have pointed out, and I will reaffirm it too. I'm happy that they did not just take the second ending and slap it on as the power-up song the way they did with Trio Dreams. This means I'll like this song more. This means I won't die from repetition. I like some of the first shots. A lot of the angles and shots for this performance are very cool. But I do have to say real quick, my piece here. I have said in other places, I do not care for this baton. I don't think there's really any batons in the franchise that I've been like, this is my favorite thing in the universe. They're just kind of unnecessarily long and hard to display. But, this item's not doing it for me. I don't think I'll be purchasing this item until like a couple years down in the aftermarket when it goes down to like $5 instead of, what is it, like $50 for this thing now? I'm gonna save my money. It's not as bad. It is not as bad as our stick from last season, but it's not great. It's just 2 disco balls on a stick, and then like the ribbon part of it, and then a mechanism to put the other ribbons inside of it. I don't know, as people will say, especially since we don't get a power-up-ish. I guess I haven't been able to talk about the power-up stuff, because I think that happened last week. Yeah, we're not really, surprise, surprise, as I kind of had noted in other reviews. We're not getting a dress power-up, and specifically, too, we're not getting it at this moment. To talk about the leaks that came out that are now not really leaks anymore, they're official. They did have a toy show where they showcased 2 new forms of Cure Idol. I do not remember the name of both of them. One of them I know is the God Style, which will be in the movie. So we do know that there's going to be an Idol-specific power-up for the movie. Surprising no one, because that's what they always do with these movies. However, they showed us another power-up for just Cure Idol at the moment, where she just color palette swapped her outfit into red and yellow. I'm not sure where that's gonna go. Allegedly, based on the things that they have given us from the official accounts, they said that the outfit will show up sometime in the show and the movie, but we don't really know when. Clearly her red outfit is not part of this power-up, but it's somewhere. I don't know. I think it'd be cool if all of them had some kind of alternative red color palettes, but so far it's looking like it's just Cure Idol. I'm so glad we're going back to giving only our lead Cure a power-up. As many of you know, that's my favorite thing. I love it when the series does that. Doesn't make me mad at all. Anyways, we still get some cute shots within this dance. New song is good. I don't have too much to say on it because it's one of those things I need to listen to like 15 more times to like solidify my opinion. But for the most part, I think it's good. I like that they sit there and they're like, this is our finale! Like, this is the final one. And I was like, I don't know if it's gonna be your final sort of. Though, to be fair, this could be like their quote-unquote final song, and then they have an encore song, you know, when the show ends, and then you say encore like 50,000 times, and then they come back out and they perform. That might happen. Like, I could imagine them in the final episode all being dead, and then somebody's like, all the fairies chant encore, and then they like rise up again, and we get the final song, and then maybe we get a power-up. Who knows? Who knows? Not me. I don't know anything. But overall, they all sit here with it. The baton looks bad to me. Like, maybe with our main 3 it's fine, because they just have the headsets. Having the mic and the baton in the back, they look dumb. It bothers me. The only thing I liked about the baton is that when they spin it in the dance, it leaves streaks of light, which is cool, but, like, that's not gonna work for children. But in the show, it works. I do like that their finisher attack has all of their different little symbols, and I like that the colors don't merge together. Like, normally when you do these kind of final attacks, it turns into one big, like, white beam or something along those lines, depending on what the show is and what it's doing. I like that you can still see the individual colors here when they shoot it out. I don't know, there's something about, like, maintaining a little bit of that individuality with the characters that I appreciate. Jogi is surprised that he was defeated, but then he's like, haha, interesting, and then, like, evils off, as always happens. And then we get this shot that many people have pointed out is similar to the shot that we saw in the opening before, where we just saw Idol's hand, and then the rest of the team joins in, which is super adorable. People have been like, they should change the opening to have this. I agree. I think they should do that. I think this is a perfect opportunity, especially since we've seen that they've literally animated it. I hope they do switch that in the opening, because that's really cute. And in terms of our resolution, we finally see that Medadon and Putidun are moving out of the house, which now we see that our old fairy friends have decided to reside there instead. And they explain their reasoning for moving out is that they're going to move in with Uta, mostly because Putidun lived with Uta, and now Medadon is cool with Uta. So, Kanaka kind of has his place back. He still has 2 new roommates, but it is what it is. And they have this really cute scene where, like, Uta starts singing to Medadon, but instead of being, like, pissed off the way she normally is, she's really happy and it's cute and smiley, and I really liked it. It's a really good way to end the episode. Like, it's a new chapter in Medadon sucking less, and I'm really super excited for it. Like, it's been a very roller coaster ride with this character. Because I liked her initially, and then she really, like, went downhill when she became a Cure, which is not something you ever want to say in a series like this, that they got worse the second that they upgraded to Cure level. But now we can finally have her character move forward, and they tried to explain why she got 0 character development, and again, it's just like, it went on for too many episodes. I think I would have been happier if earlier in the summer they had plopped this plot in there, but it is what it is, and it looks like pacing-wise we can now move into what, again, like, I'm so used to this point in the summer we just have a bunch of filler episodes, but it felt very weird having filler episodes when it felt like the plot was not concluded. In the sense that, like, Medadon was still sitting here in, like, character limbo, but we're sitting here trying to have the Kokoro and Nana episodes. I'm glad that we can move forward, but I do think we're now going to hit some, it looks like, for the most part, we're gonna get some fillery episodes, which I'm happy for. I'm happy to just have some simpler episodes where we're now plateaued with the team for the moment before the next leg of the story kicks in. So my perspective on the series is that hopefully it will look up. I think this was a pretty decent conclusion, at least in terms of, like, the second half of this episode, of this Medadon plotline. I do think they have room to make the plot and the lore make a little sense. Like, I think the Dark and Light Fairy thing is very interesting. I'm excited to see how that comes out. I do hope, at the very least, I'm sitting over here like it's Star Twinkle. I'd love it if Picorine turns out to be, like, they're never really, like, truly evil, but she sucked. Something is her fault. Because, like, at this point, her actions are borderline antagonistic. Like, at the end of the day, her character has just been so far a victim of bad writing, but the potential of her just being a problem and being this, like, secretive person who's just caused more problems than done good would make more sense. I need her to be a villain just to justify her terrible writing. But overall, this was a big, impactful episode. I'm so sorry that this came out later than it should have. But of course I'd go on vacation right when the biggest arc so far hits. But hopefully for fall to Christmas, there should be no more vacation. I should be able to review the rest of this on time. I take it back. Thanksgiving probably is gonna throw things out of whack too, depending on the scheduling there. But that's so far from now. Like, we're gonna go so far into the future, and I'm going to be able to consistently post, which I really want to do. I think this is the first time I've had an episode be late and people have been like, yo, where's your review though? So I appreciate you guys being excited for it, and I can't wait to share more Precure with you guys in the future. So until then, bye bye!